Oh wow, Snow White flopped. Who is surprised? You cast arguably the least genuine, most out of touch, and disliked person in her industry, and her industry is Hollywood. And the bad guy is Gal Gadot.
All right, settle in. This isn't just a movie flop story. This is a full-blown Hollywood implosion played out in public, and the latest gut punch? It just came from the kings of animated mockery themselves, the Simpsons. You're watching Starlush, and we're peeling back the layers on how a Disney star's fairy tale moment went from a red carpet dream to a national punchline dissected on primetime television. This wasn't a gentle nudge. The Simpsons went for the jugular, turning Rachel Zegler and the absolute disaster that was Disney's Snow White reimagining into fodder for their signature zero mercy brand of humor. The fake movie within the show, they didn't even try to be subtle. It was called Snow Woke, the reimagining. Yeah, you heard that right. And folks, it was exactly the kind of brutal, on-the-nose roast you'd expect. It wasn't just a side gag, it was a featured humiliation, airing Rachel's controversial comments and the film's catastrophic failure for millions to see. This lands just as Rachel was already buried under mountains of bad press, facing relentless fan backlash and reeling from a box office performance so bad it made Ghostbusters Answer the Call look like a blockbuster. But The Simpsons dragging her? That's a whole new level of public career damage.
Excuse me. Your curtain. Please allow me to help.
Help? From you?
I didn't mean to offend. I just thought you should know that
That I should know what? That some privileged white guy thinks his opinion matters? Get over your entitlement. I'm not some damsel in distress waiting for you to ride in on your high.
And the sheer, almost poetic irony of it all? A movie based on Minecraft, you know, the blocky pixel game, managed to completely stomp all over Disney's live-action big-budget remake at the box office. Minecraft. Let that sink in. A movie about digital cubes embarrassed a classic fairy tale reimagining backed by the Mouse House's seemingly endless marketing machine. Nobody, absolutely nobody, saw this kind of spectacular failure coming. Disney executives apparently thought Rachel was their golden ticket, the one who would breathe fresh life into a cherished classic, maybe even kickstart a new multi-billion-dollar franchise. Instead, the whispers circulating in Hollywood right now aren't that she revived it, they're that she helped demolish it. Think about it. Before the Snow White controversy, most average folks didn't even know who Rachel Zegler was. She had that breakout role in West Side Story, sure, critically acclaimed, but it wasn't exactly putting her name in every household across America. Then, she started talking, and she talked recklessly. It wasn't just expressing opinions, it was openly criticizing the very source material she was hired to embody. And suddenly, she wasn't just that actress from West Side Story, she was that actress who hated Snow White. The internet went wild. Theaters were left echoing with empty seats. Actual videos surfaced online showing people as the only ones in entire auditoriums. Total, unmitigated disaster. Now, The Simpsons, a show that's basically an institution in American pop culture, has officially cemented Rachel Zegler's Snow White saga as a national joke. There's no walking this back. The whole world, from coast to coast, is about to see her become the punchline. And how is Rachel reportedly handling this fresh wave of televised humiliation? Sources buzzing close to her camp are saying she's absolutely livid. Not just annoyed, not just upset, livid, fuming. Zero laughs, zero chill, just pure, unadulterated rage. The cartoon version of her isn't exactly flattering either. It's depicted as a totally clueless, self-absorbed girl boss figure, completely detached from reality, lecturing villagers about toxic traditions. And the brutal truth? A massive segment of the viewing public, fueled by months of online drama, feels that portrayal is disturbingly accurate. Just when it felt like the situation couldn't possibly get any messier, while The Simpsons are unleashing this primetime flame-throwing, Rachel Zegler herself seems to be attempting a vanishing act. She's reportedly gone quiet, completely dropped off the public radar. Radio silence. This sudden disappearance act comes right after reports leaked out that Disney might have actually requested her to contribute financially to cover some of the film's staggering losses. That's right, potentially asking the star to help pay for the flop. This is the same actress who's been entangled in controversy and public relations nightmares for months on end. And now, poof, vanished. No interviews lined up, no social media posts, not even a fleeting story update, just total eerie silence. Critics and industry watchers have been predicting something like this for a while now. The public backlash, the box office numbers, the palpable awkwardness surrounding the project. It felt like a collapse was inevitable. And now, it's happening. The Simpsons, a show that's been on air for decades and reaches millions, is dragging her live and direct for everyone to see and laugh at. Honestly, in the long, painful timeline of this whole saga, this televised mockery might just be her single biggest public defeat yet. The sheer scale of it is hard to overstate. And what's truly wild, the bitter twist of fate in all of this? This entire downward spiral started with what was supposed to be her triumphant Cinderella-esque moment. Rachel Zegler was genuinely being hyped as Hollywood's next big thing. After delivering a performance in Steven Spielberg's West Side Story that earned her critical acclaim and a Golden Globe, she was handed the keys to a kingdom. The lead role in Disney's live-action Snow White. This wasn't just a job. It was framed as her undeniable glow-up moment, the transition from acclaimed newcomer to global superstar, the face of a beloved franchise. But almost immediately after the project was officially announced, the narrative began to unravel. And it wasn't initially because of leaked plot details or behind-the-scenes drama on set. No, the initial fuse was lit entirely by Rachel herself, and what she kept saying in interviews and on red carpets. Instead of hitting the expected talking points, hyping the timeless legacy of Snow White, expressing genuine excitement about honoring the character, or sharing how thrilled she was to bring the magic to a new generation, Rachel went off script, way off script. She used high-profile interviews to drop takes that not only rubbed traditional fans the wrong way, but felt openly dismissive of the very story she was paid millions to star in. In one infamous viral moment, she described the prince from the original 1937 animated classic as a literal stalker. She called the entire fairy tale weird and outdated. The internet, a place not known for its measured responses, absolutely lost its collective mind. To a huge number of people, especially those who grew up loving the original, it didn't sound like she was just offering a modern perspective or being honest. It sounded, to many ears, like she was openly mocking and clowning the cherished fairy tale she was cast to honor. And the backlash wasn't a slow build. It piled on rapidly. As more interview clips surfaced and were dissected online, the accusations escalated. People started labeling her arrogant, entitled, and incredibly out of touch. Sure, a few tried to defend her, spinning it as bold or necessary for a modern interpretation. But the overwhelming vibe online was overwhelmingly negative. The hashtag #GirlBossSnowWhite started trending, and let's be clear, it wasn't being used as a compliment. Every single public statement, every red carpet soundbite, every casual comment she made was being scrutinized, picked apart, and used as more kindling to fuel the growing inferno of online outrage. For the fans who were excited about the movie, the initial magic was rapidly dissipating. It felt like the entire concept of Snow White was being redefined and stripped of its core elements before it even hit theaters. But the controversy wasn't limited to just Rachel's outspoken comments. Things got even weirder, and perhaps more damaging, when the movie's press tour kicked off. There was a palpable, super awkward vibe between Rachel and her co-star, Gal Gadot, who was playing the evil queen. It wasn't just speculation, people couldn't stop talking about the visibly strange body language between them. It was the kind of awkward tension you could cut with a knife, playing out in front of cameras designed to capture chemistry and excitement. When they hit the stage together at the Oscars, the lack of connection was impossible to ignore. Fans watching instantly noticed something was just off. No easy banter, barely any warm interaction. It looked cold, distant, and the rumors started flying thick and fast. Was Gal Gadot actively keeping her distance from the swirling drama surrounding Rachel? Behind the scenes, word quickly spread that things were tense, far from friendly, maybe even bordering on hostile. The optics were terrible, adding another layer of behind-the-scenes conflict to the already burning public relations fire. While this entire, multifaceted public relations nightmare was unfolding, Disney did something that, in hindsight, looks like a catastrophic mistake. They stayed oddly silent. No proactive damage control, no fresh strategy to address the growing public anger. They just kept pushing the same marketing materials, the same talking points, acting as if everything was perfectly fine, as if the internet wasn't actively dismantling their star and their movie every single day. But when Snow White finally dropped in theaters, even with Disney's gargantuan marketing budget and their history of success with live-action remakes, it didn't just underperform, it flopped hard. Whether it was the backlash, the awkward press tour, the perceived disrespect for the original story, or perhaps even deeper issues with the film itself, the audience just wasn't feeling it. They didn't show up. The movie rapidly transformed into one of Disney's most controversial and financially disappointing remakes ever. And now, that spectacular flop has been permanently etched into pop culture history, courtesy of The Simpsons dropping that savage, deep-cutting parody. That classic Springfield-style roast didn't hold back a single punch. It was a direct, unfiltered attack on the movie's perceived themes and its star's public persona. What should have been Rachel Zegler's career-defining, legacy-securing moment ended up looking less like a fairy tale and more like a cautionary tale, a textbook example of how not to launch a major franchise reboot. The bold rebrand, the attempt to modernize a classic, it backfired not just critically or financially, but culturally. Whether people liked Rachel's take on the character or absolutely couldn't stand it, one thing became undeniably clear. The sheer volume and intensity of the drama surrounding Snow White made it unforgettable. But, tragically for everyone involved, for all the wrong reasons. And once the initial feverish online hype and controversy began to fade, the cold, hard numbers delivered the final, brutal truth. This one tanked. The box office numbers weren't just weak, they were abysmal for a production of this scale. And the film's user score on sites like IMDb? It crashed to a brutal 1.6 out of 10 at one point. One of the worst user scores for any Disney film, ever. The audience didn't just ignore the movie. A significant portion of the online community seemed to actively celebrate its failure, flooding social media platforms with savage memes, brutal reviews, and Reddit threads with titles like, "How Not to Market a Movie." It wasn't just negative reception. It was a full-blown, public online execution. Then, just when the situation felt like it couldn't possibly get any weirder or darker, things took a truly bizarre turn. A fake OnlyFans page featuring an AI-generated image eerily resembling Rachel exploded overnight. It was completely fake, a digital fabrication, but thousands, perhaps tens of thousands, believed it was real. This incident, though clearly unrelated to Rachel or the movie's actual production, served as a chilling barometer of how far her public image had fallen. Things had gotten so messy, so out of control, that even completely wild, fabricated rumors were starting to sound believable to a public already primed for scandal and downfall. And Hollywood, the town built on image and reputation, was absolutely paying attention. Casting calls that once prominently featured Rachel's name, or productions where she was heavily rumored to be the lead, started quietly fading away. Projects she was attached to either stalled indefinitely or, perhaps more tellingly, quietly underwent recasting, with new names appearing in roles that were once seemingly hers. In the span of just 1 year, Rachel Zegler went from being positioned as Disney's next undeniable rising star to reportedly being labeled something far more dangerous in the industry: a brand risk. This is a label that can stop a career dead in its tracks faster than almost anything else. And just to add another layer of personal drama to the professional crisis, her very public breakup with actor Josh Andres Rivera dropped more headlines, more speculation, and more questions into the already turbulent mix. People weren't just talking about her professional struggles. They were speculating about whether she was cracking under the intense, unforgiving glare of the spotlight. And right at the moment things might have started to cool down, just perhaps, The Simpsons delivered the knockout blow. Their episode, Snow Woke: The Reimagining, wasn't just a quick joke. It was an entire segment dedicated to roasting the controversial take and its star. The animated version of Snow White is shown banning princes, lecturing confused villagers, and then, in a scene hitting perhaps too close to home, watching her movie absolutely tank in a dead-empty theater before having a public meltdown on a fictional talk show hosted by Krusty the Clown. It was total, unadulterated chaos, broadcast to the world. The Simpsons didn't just take a swing at Rachel. They went all in, pulling zero punches. The parody version of her character wasn't subtle in the slightest. She was loud, preachy, aggressively woke, and depicted as completely disconnected from the people around her, baffling everyone with modern sensibilities shoehorned into a fairy tale setting. In one particularly sharp scene, the character cancels a traditional royal ball because it promotes toxic traditions, and instead attempts to host a self-empowerment workshop, where absolutely nobody shows up. The villagers look utterly confused, the prince is summarily kicked out, and by the end of the segment, the entire town has essentially turned on her character. Fans online who caught the episode were reportedly shook, some calling it harsh but perhaps deserved, others saying it was long overdue given the controversy. Memes exploded instantly across every platform. Screenshots of the fake snow woke movie scenes, the empty theater, the bewildered animated villagers, they were everywhere. TikTok users started making side-by-side edits comparing moments from the Simpsons parody directly to clips from Rachel's actual interviews that sparked the controversy. And disturbingly, the parody was, in many cases, almost too accurate to the public perception she had created. The internet wasn't just laughing, they were dissecting every second, reveling in the televised schadenfreude. Meanwhile, Rachel Zegler herself remained completely silent. No comments, no statements, not even a single like on social media. She maintained her vanishing act while the Simpsons parody trended, sitting at the top of entertainment news feeds and sparking endless discussion. The actress who was supposed to be Hollywood's next big star, the fresh, talented face of a classic Disney princess, had officially become the punchline of a national primetime cartoon, and the timing couldn't have been worse. Studios were already reportedly pulling back, hesitant to attach her name to new projects. Now, this. Behind closed doors, the buzz from industry insiders reportedly confirms what many suspected. Disney was absolutely not happy. While the company has maintained a tight-lipped public silence throughout this entire ordeal, a silence that itself drew criticism. Multiple reports from anonymous sources close to the production and the studio have painted a picture of executive frustration. Not just with the movie's disastrous box office performance, which is painful enough, but with how Rachel reportedly handled the spotlight and the controversy she generated. One unnamed source allegedly told a prominent entertainment news outlet that the film stopped being about Snow White and started being about Rachel versus the world. And it wasn't just executives feeling the strain. Some crew members reportedly felt similarly, frustrated by the narrative shifting away from the film itself and onto the star's public persona. There were whispers about on-set tension, last-minute script rewrites in an attempt to tone down some of the perceived woke elements, and scenes being cut or reshot. The vision for the film seemed to keep changing, perhaps reacting to the public temperature, and by the time the movie finally hit theaters, even longtime fans of the original story barely recognized the characters or the plot. And then there's the merchandise disaster. A massive part of Disney's business model for these live-action remakes is the toys, the clothing lines, the theme park tie-ins. But for Snow White, toys based on the film reportedly gathered dust on store shelves, deeply discounted within weeks of release. A planned Snow White clothing line, a potentially huge earner, was apparently quietly canceled. Retailers reportedly didn't want to touch it, seeing it as too risky, too associated with failure and controversy. For Disney, this wasn't merely a movie that didn't make money, it was a total, comprehensive brand failure, damaging the image of a classic character they've carefully cultivated for almost a century. What's even more telling about the depth of this failure is that industry professionals are now reportedly using the film as a cautionary tale in internal meetings. Don't Pull a Snow White has allegedly become code for don't push a rebrand so hard, so controversially, that it completely alienates the core audience and causes a public relations collapse. It's become a negative benchmark, a textbook example of how things can go horribly, spectacularly wrong. And right at the absolute center of this industry-wide case study is Rachel Zegler, with her reputation in freefall. Her future in Hollywood is looking undeniably shaky, maybe even grim. Projects she once hyped on social media, teasing upcoming roles. Complete silence, no updates. Films she was previously reported to be attached to now list different leads. It's as if her name is being quietly, perhaps strategically, scrubbed from potential cast lists and public announcements. Fast. Even her online presence among fans is reportedly fading. Fan accounts that were once dedicated to tracking her style, celebrating her performances, or dissecting her interviews haven't posted in weeks. Some even reportedly shutting down entirely, citing the sheer volume of negativity and toxicity surrounding her. The same internet that helped boost her initial rise by going viral over her controversial comments is now seemingly ghosting her, moving on from the drama as the star herself goes silent. And the analysis isn't limited to just online chatter. PR experts and crisis managers have been weighing in, openly calling her situation one of the most dramatic public image crashes in years. They're arguing that her prolonged silence, while perhaps an attempt to weather the storm, isn't helping her case. When public perception turns this decisively and this negatively, staying quiet only allows others, like, say, a primetime cartoon, to control the narrative and keep delivering blows. When you're silent, You give the mic to your critics, one expert reportedly explained. And right now, that mic is firmly in the hands of the Simpsons, and they are still undeniably dragging. The truly scary part of this entire saga? This all happened in under 2 years. From awards buzz, critical acclaim, and landing a coveted Disney deal, to becoming the subject of relentless internet memes, industry caution warnings, and now, a full-blown parody flameout on one of the biggest TV shows in history. It's one of the fastest, most public career meltdowns in recent memory. Can she possibly bounce back from this level of negative exposure and professional damage? That is the multi-million-dollar question hanging over Hollywood right now. But as it stands today, Rachel's Hollywood fairy tale is looking less like a dream and more like a cautionary nightmare playing out in real time. And everyone, absolutely everyone, is still watching to see what happens next. While a few dedicated fans are still holding out hope for a triumphant comeback, the whispers from industry insiders aren't painting a hopeful picture. Word is major studios are keeping their distance, hesitant, maybe even outright unwilling, to gamble on a name that has become this polarizing, this associated with controversy and financial failure. One casting director reportedly told a trade magazine off record that Rachel has become too risky to touch right now. And in a business where image, perception, and bankability are everything, being labeled too risky is the kind of sticky label that can cripple a career for years. Even streaming platforms, which have often served as a safety net or a second chance for troubled stars trying to rebuild their image or prove their worth away from the intense scrutiny of the big screen, haven't reportedly stepped in. There were whispers about a possible Netflix project she was attached to, but reports suggest it was quietly dropped. A supposed guest role on a prestigious TV show? Reportedly recast. It's starting to look like her entire career trajectory is getting the silent treatment from the industry itself. And while Rachel Zegler seemingly keeps her head down and remains silent, her critics, spurred on by events like the Simpsons parody, keep getting louder. Comment sections on every article, every social media post related to her are reportedly brutal. YouTube breakdowns analyzing her past interviews and the unfolding controversy rack up millions of views. Even reaction channels, a significant force on the platform, are reportedly making entire series dedicated to cataloging her public downfall. She hasn't just become a celebrity who made a few public missteps or starred in a bad movie. She's morphed into a full-blown case study on the brutal speed and ferocity with which public opinion, fueled by the internet and amplified by mainstream media, can flip and potentially obliterate a career. The fall from grace didn't just hit hard, it hit with blinding speed. And in a town where attention is the primary currency, Rachel Zegler's account just looks completely empty. The silence she's chosen? Paradoxically, it only seems to be making the noise surrounding her louder and louder. Now here's the wild twist, the kind of unexpected turn that only Hollywood drama could deliver. Some voices online are starting to float a completely different idea. Maybe, just maybe, the Simpsons parody might be the unexpected catalyst that saves her career. Not in a traditional image rehabilitation kind of way, but in a bizarre, lean into the joke, own the humiliation kind of rebrand. There's been chatter online. Could Rachel pull off a move similar to other celebrities who've been dragged through the mud, openly acknowledged and even joked about the criticism, owned the mess, and somehow bounced back even stronger, proving they don't take themselves too seriously? Think of it as Hollywood's twisted redemption arc, a comeback narrative born from public mockery. But the huge, looming question mark hanging over this possibility is simple. Can she laugh at herself? Is she capable of taking the public humiliation, even the brutal parody, and somehow flipping the script, turning the mockery into a relatable moment before it's definitively too late? So far, absolutely nothing in her public behavior or lack thereof suggests she's ready or willing to go there. And while she remains silent, detached from the public conversation, the internet is already busy writing the next chapter of her story. Or perhaps, her epitaph, without her participation. At the same time, a few media outlets, sensing a shift in the wind, or perhaps feeling a twinge of media guilt, are reportedly starting to shift their tone. A few think pieces and articles have popped up, cautiously asking if the level of backlash has finally crossed the line from legitimate criticism into outright bullying. Is the relentless online roasting, the public mockery amplified by shows like The Simpsons, disproportionate to the perceived crimes of being outspoken or starring in a flop? Either way you look at it, one thing is crystal clear. Rachel Zegler isn't just dealing with the fallout from a bad movie and a few controversial comments anymore. She's caught squarely in the middle of a swirling cultural firestorm, a high-profile symbol of online outrage, celebrity entitlement, and the changing landscape of Hollywood. If she has any hope of mounting a comeback, of somehow rebuilding a career that seems to be actively disintegrating before the world's eyes, it's going to take more than just landing a new acting role. It'll require a level of public humility, impeccable timing for any potential return to the spotlight, and probably, perhaps most importantly, an entirely new, highly skilled public relations team capable of navigating the treacherous waters she finds herself in. Because right now, the harsh, unforgiving spotlight is still intensely focused on her. And whether she likes it, whether she engages with it, or whether she continues her silence, this story, this dramatic public spectacle is very, very far from over. When Springfield, the fictional animated town that skewers everything in American culture, turns you into a featured punchline, that is when you know, unequivocally, that you are no longer just a working celebrity dealing with some bad press. You have officially ascended, or perhaps descended, into being a full-blown public spectacle, a cultural moment to be dissected, debated, and mocked. Rachel Zegler's name isn't just appearing in entertainment headlines anymore. In many ways, for better or worse, her name is the headline. And yes, technically, there is still time for a comeback. Hollywood loves a good redemption arc, a story of overcoming adversity and proving the doubters wrong. It's built on such narratives. But let's be real here. The road back from this kind of mess, a catastrophic box office disaster, prolonged, intense fan outrage, the industry reportedly labeling you a risk, and now being roasted on The Simpsons, that road is unbelievably uphill. It's steep, it's rocky, and every single step of the way will be under the unblinking eye of cameras, social media, and a public that has proven it's willing to watch the drama unfold, however brutal it gets. Rachel's public image didn't just take a hit over the last year or two, it shattered into a million pieces. Now, the million-dollar question everyone's still watching to see answered is simple, stark, and carries immense weight. Will she somehow find a way to pick up those pieces and rebuild? Or did the ultimate cultural barometer, The Simpsons, just deliver the final blow, effectively closing the book on her promising Hollywood fairy tale for good? What do you think about this whole messy situation? Can Rachel Zegler possibly bounce back from this level of public and professional damage? Or is this looking like the definitive end of her rapid rise to stardom? Drop your opinion in the comments below. Let me know what you think. This situation is still unfolding and there are always new twists. Hit subscribe to Starlush if you want to stay updated on this kind of breaking drama and conflict as it happens. Don't forget to like the video if you found this breakdown compelling and share it with anyone who needs to catch up on this wild story. We've got more where that came from, digging into the drama and controversies everyone's talking about. And as always, we'll see you in the next one.